na engleskom, jer ipak što mogu da govorim naš jezik, malo mi je lakše i mogu da govorim malo brže na engleskom. Znam da imamo ceo dan, ali ipak dali su mi vreme da završim ovaj deo odgovora. To će biti oko 15-20 minuta, tako da ja ću da promenim sad na engleski. I'm just saying that thank you very much for the opportunity to be here this morning, and happy Sabbath to all. It's a distinct pleasure for me to be here with you all today and to share this special day. Although I am able to speak Serbian and Croatian, what we call sometimes the Yugoslavian language, I'm a little bit more comfortable speaking and more fluid in speaking in a public manner in English. And if I want to stay to the time allotment given to me, I had better switch gears, as it were, to English. I have a few minutes to share with you this morning. I guess it's an extension of Mission Spotlight. And the question I want you to ask yourself, each and every single one of you here today, I want you to ask yourselves, what is my mission? I know that not all of us go out on mission trips or are dedicated missionaries, and yet we are all supposed to be missionaries for God. Whether we have a tax number or whether we have an entire group or organization behind us, those are only different levels of missionary work, organizations or individuals. However, we individually all have the opportunity and perhaps even the responsibility to be accountable for the gifts that God has given us and the opportunity He has given us to share Him with others who don't know Him, perhaps. 7 years ago, I was invited to come to go to Cuba to continue my training and preparation for the Athens Games in 2004. And it was time for me to do a little bit of a change, to do something different in my life. I needed some more challenge. And it has been said of me that if challenge doesn't find Lillo, Lillo will find challenge. And so, yeah, sure, go to Cuba. Why not? Never been there. Never been to Cuba. I don't speak a word of Spanish. I don't know a soul on the island of Cuba. Last time I checked, I was totally blind. And I'm going there with a mission to train and prepare for the Paralympic Games. I don't know where I'm going to find a coach. I don't know where I'm going to sleep. I don't know how I'm going to find that place that I'm going to sleep in. I don't know how I'm going to get from point A to point B and be able to communicate that, let alone be able to ask for the most basic things like, where's the washroom? Where's my coach? I threw the discus. Can you go get it? Because I can't. And so my mom and dad, my dad was really encouraging. My mom always encouraging, but she was worried. And she didn't share that with me, but she was super worried. So what does she do? My mom's habit always was, wherever she found herself, didn't matter what country, what state, what city, what village, she would open up the telephone book, ask someone in the street. She would find out where the next nearest Seventh-day Adventist church is, and she would find herself there, whether it was Sabbath or Wednesday or Tuesday or Monday. She would get herself in contact with the pastor, and she'd be connected. So that was her answer. I'm going to connect you. I said, Mom, I'm going to this communist, socialist, fidelist country. I don't even know what to expect. I've never understood this system. I don't know this system. I've never been in this kind of situation. I know I'm going by myself, but Mom, the last thing I need to do is go to church and listen to theological Spanish when I don't even know how to ask where the bathroom is. And how am I going to find my way to the church? She says, don't worry. I don't know to this day how she did it. She, I guess, managed to call somebody in Florida, and somebody in Florida called somebody somewhere, and somehow, somewhere along the way, some sort of message was passed along to Havana. And somewhere along the way, someone got the message that there was going to be some blind, crazy Canadian Adventist woman I'm going to be living somewhere in Havana. Havana's a big city. 4 million people live there, at least that is recorded. And anyway, long story short, Sabbath morning, I'm resting from a long week of very arduous work. My mind is just exploding. I'm trying to understand what people are saying. I'm trying to understand instructions. I'm trying to find my way, and I'm trying to count all the blessings that God had given me. It was amazing because instantly I had a young woman who came to be my friend, who's now like a sister to me. Her husband and her became my number 1 and number 2 supports in Havana. They did everything for me. They connected me with a coach who had never coached a blind person before. He decides, out of the goodness of his heart, to coach me. I'm like, thank you, God. I have a coach. I have a place to stay. I have someone who can take me from one place to the next place, to the next place, to the next place. And take me by the hand and show me where the shower is, and take me by the hand and show me where the bathroom is, and go get my discuses and bring them back. And here on Saturday morning, there's a knock on the residence doors, and apparently there's a man waiting for me outside. I don't know who it is. And so I walk out there, and apparently, one word after another, apparently it's a pastor. The word understood, pastor and Adventist. Yay, thank you, God. But where did you come from? Oh, apparently the nearest Adventist church. He had along with him the youth pastor as well. So we didn't get into a car. We walked. 35 Celsius, humidity, unbelievable. I'm still struggling to overcome my jet lag. It's only been about 3 days, and here I am going to an Adventist church. That was in Alamar in 2003. That church is my home church when I'm in Cuba. I am an honorary member, in fact, together with my husband, my mom, and my dad. We were adopted honorary members in that church. That's how it began. But quite honestly, God had plans long before. I had no idea that my trip to train and prepare for the Paralympic Games in 2004 would end up being a missionary trip of unbelievable proportions that is continuing till this very day, 7 years later. Now, you guys know a little bit about living in different kinds of cultures and societies where different rules exist. Well, there are some strange rules that exist in Cuba. Certainly, religion is practiced, and it is somewhat free to practice. And there are churches almost in every corner. They're not really churches. They're just extensions of private homes that they turn into places of worship and gather. But my first trip there, I had no idea that I was smuggling. I mean, I kind of had the idea that perhaps it was excessive what I had in my suitcase. But figuring that, I was going to stay there for 5 weeks, I brought 4 massive bags, full of stuff for me. But one of the bags, in mixed between all that stuff were 150 Bibles. And, if anybody opened them, I would just simply say, but Bibles? I had no idea. I didn't see them there. Well, I always have a Bible with me. I just don't know how 150 of them showed up. But you know what? My mom was praying from the day one that when I crossed that border, that the customs agents' eyes would be closed, minds would be shut down or open in the proper way, hearts would be softened, and that they would allow me through. I have to admit that in the last 7 years, I've only had my bags checked once. And that was last week. And I go to Cuba 5 times a year. And every time I go, I am loaded for bear. Fortunately, I'm a very frequent flyer with Air Canada. I average about 250,000 miles every year. And therefore, I'm privileged to be allowed 4 suitcases, 32 kilos each. And that doesn't count my carry-on suitcase, and nobody touches that one because it weighs more than 32 kilos usually. But I don't want them touching it and finding out. Interestingly enough, I started with the Bibles. I started visiting the church with candies for the children and little running shoes that my mom and dad found in loony stores and things like that. But that was only the beginning. The Holy Spirit began to work on me and worked on my family and my mom, basically pushing and shoving and inspiring my father and I to begin something different. My dad was a television director and producer in charge of a television station for many years, very knowledgeable in these kinds of technological situations. However, after his retirement, he did some other voluntary work, but never had a computer. He saw me having a computer. My husband had a computer, but he never had a computer. My husband gave him a computer for his birthday one year, and my dad struggled to figure out how to turn the thing on, let alone do anything on it. I remember him praying and praying how to use the computer, and then when he found out how to learn, turn it on and open up a program, he prayed to God to figure out a way how he could use this computer to his glory. And one day I remember my dad said he had been praying for weeks on end. He had exhausted all the experts that he knew in his circle. No one knew how to do what he wanted to do. What he wanted to do was take signal off of 3ABN, because he discovered there was a Latin, Spanish-speaking 3ABN. And he wanted to take the signal from 3ABN, take some of those programs that are amazingly powerful in Spanish, and somehow put them in his computer. And then once they're on his computer, to edit all this material, and then to put it on a disc. And not a DVD disc, because DVDs were not permitted in Cuba at that time, but CD discs with movies on them, which is called a VCD format. He had no idea what a VCD was. And most of us in North America gave up that technology 25 years ago. And my father was lying in bed, and he remembered he woke up and he had a voice, a thought that said, go to the computer and press that key. He went down to the computer, pressed that key, and amazingly enough, an entire horizon of new possibilities opened up on this particular very sophisticated, very expensive program that somehow he had then managed to install in his computer. Before long, God gave him another instruction, and another instruction, and another instruction. And before long, my father was not only collecting signals, burning VCDs, labeling and creating entire collections, but he was then saying, okay, Lillo, next time you go, I've got all this evangelistical program, all this Christian spiritual material. I know these people are starved for Bibles. I know that they're starved from the message to hear from God. We've got to find a way to get that message in there. And I have got the way. God has shown me the way. So now, I got to go to Cuba, not with 150 Bibles. Now I've got to bring in 800 discs. All labeled. I can't even say they're blank. All labeled in Spanish. God's special resurrection. Who is Jesus? Get to know him today. Very clear labels. And so we're all praying, God, that he will send angels to help me. I'm a blind woman. I'm traveling halfway across the world into basically a country that is an incredible mix between the 1800s and 2010. I go into cities where people still use coach and horse and buggy as public transportation to get to work. And while they're on the little bench squeezed in amongst 8 other Cubans going to work in a buggy, in the back of a buggy, they're on a mobile phone. That's what I mean, the strange mixture between 1800s and 2010. And so 800 DVDs. Problem now. I got the DVDs in there. Guess what? It is illegal to bring in, to purchase a DVD player. What do? You get 800 DVDs. Well, they're VCD format. But there's no DVD players in the country. We didn't think about that. So I started traveling around the world, and everywhere I went, anytime I went to Asia or anytime I went to South America, I found these disc players, like Discmen, that apparently play something called VCDs. And apparently you can connect one of these Discmen to a television. I don't understand how you can see a movie from a CD disc. That still escapes me, but somehow it works. And so I brought in CDs with video material on them that was put in a Discman player, connected to a television by some sort of magic. There's churches now watching spiritual material on their televisions. Wow. That was pretty cool, but that was a lot of work. And I don't go to countries every day where I can find a VCD. I don't know what a VCD player is. And try to communicate that in Chinese and Malaysian. Wherever I find myself, I have to try and communicate what I need. So I decided, Dad, this is crazy. We need to get some DVD players into this country. It's the simplest way. And DVDs, machines, they play all sorts of formats. No problem. VCD, DVD, it'll play it. But honey, what are we going to do? It's illegal. What are they going to do if they catch you with a DVD if you take it into the country? Well, Dad, they've already kind of given me a bit of a hard time over my computer, but once I told them it's my computer, and yes, it has a DVD player, but it's part of the computer. It's integral part of the computer. It talks. It's my special computer. They left me alone. I had to fill in some papers, but they let me go. I said, don't worry, Dad. I'll take care of it. He was so worried. We didn't even tell Mom. I didn't tell my dad what I was planning to do. He just knew that I was planning to take a DVD machine in. I tried it. I guess God must have opened up a little chasm of space in my brain, and He showed me just how I could bring in this contraband, this something illegal, into the country. Now, the way, maybe I'm naive, but the way I thought of it is, you know what? What's the worst thing that they could do? They can take it away from me. Well, that's fine. I can sacrifice $100 on a DVD if I have to. It's worth it. It's worth it for God, right? And so I walk in and I go through the security, and there you have to put your purse and your suit and your carry-on bags. And of course, that's where I put the DVD, in my carry-on bags. And I didn't know that it would have to, well, I knew, but I don't know the technology that they have. They're so backward, and yet they have technology that picks up on machinery and mechanical equipment in your suitcases. They x-ray them. I don't know what they do, but I know that I've heard people trying to leave the airport and it goes beep, 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 and they stop that person, open their suitcase, and they find all kinds of stuff that they should have declared that was mechanical and electronics. So there's a beep, beep, beep system somewhere along the way. So here I am, I'm putting my carry-on suitcase, which is already weighing about 40 kilos, and smiling all the way, making it look so easy, just putting it there in such a specific way, and my purse there, and hello, and smiling at the customs agents and talking to them and hoping to distract them in whatever fashion or form I could. And of course, I made sure that I wore my highest heels, much higher than what I have today. And of course, I'm very, very capably putting my stuff on the whatever you call the conveyor belt. But when it came to actually putting myself, with the help of the ground crew assistant, through that little doorway where, you beep, all at once I was just totally lost. And I was like bumping into things, and everybody, people are grabbing me and helping me gently to get through the door, and I'm just like, oh, where am I? Oh, did I pass the door already? And, and they're trying to baton me in the meantime. And in the meantime, all my stuff is passing by, and I'm causing a distraction over here. They're thinking they're going to have a national disaster happen when this tower falls over. and they're beeping, and my belt is beeping, and I'm wearing a watch, and that's beeping, and I'm beeping all over the place, and by this time, I hear they're already putting down my suitcase, and miss, here's your purse, just get out of our hands. Oh, thank you so much. Grab the elbow, and I'm off. Calm, cool, collected. I pick up my bags, all 4 of them. I know that there's a sign at the exit of the airport that says, you need to declare presence and whatever, things that are going to stay in the country. I can't see that sign. And nobody can say, well, you should have, because it says, well, until somebody asks me a question, I have learned long ago, you never volunteer information, especially with customs and immigration. And so the poor person that's assisted me, she's got a disaster on her hands, and now she's had a double hernia because there's got 4 suitcases of 32 kilos each, and I'm coming for a week. And as we're pushing through, unfortunately, nothing beep, beep, beeped. And at the very end, just as you're about to leave, there's another stand of customs agents who want to check if your name, your passport, and those suitcases all belong to you. But that's where the sign is about declaring. And as we're pushing my buggy through, and the girl says, and I'm like blind, I can't speak Spanish, I don't understand anything, I just know how to smile. And so when the gentleman says, passport, well, I understand that word. I give him my passport, and he looks at me, he looks at the passport, he looks at the suitcases, looks at me, looks at the passport. He goes, señorita, this is all yours? Yes. I can't go anywhere without all my stuff. Okay. Bienvenida. And thank you very much. Welcome. And that's how I have passed through so much stuff. It's amazing. It's God's help that has been working. But let me just quickly share with you some of the stuff that we've brought. When my mom and dad both passed away recently, their requests were that instead of flowers to the memorial service, people would give whatever money they were going to give for the flowers, they would give to the Cuba Fund. Thanks to my home church, who administers the funds, we collected all the funds, and after each death, unfortunately, I took the remains of those funds, and they were $3,000, $4,000 each. I took them down to the church, and I have a fantastic rapport with the district pastor and with the pastor who is responsible for the 6 churches that I have been working with, and the one church that I belong, which is one of those 6. And with that, we have created a fund for those who are most needy. And by the way, the average person in Cuba lives on $6 a month, but a single soap is $1.35. A single pair of cheap Chinese running shoes for kids that break apart in 2 weeks is $5. And so, believe it or not, there are people that are and that's the middle class. They're also poorer than that. So we have thankfully created a fund where there is 10 families in the church that are deemed the most needy in the church for numerous reasons, and they are given $4 a month in addition to their $1 or $2 that they receive on some sort of pension or whatever else. The Cubans say, you in North America, you guys wear out your clothes a lot sooner than we do, because guess what? Those 32 kilo suitcases sometimes are full of clothes. I've gone through there with 80 pairs of men's pants, 120 men's shirts, 50 pairs of men's shorts, 60 women's dresses, 300 pairs of women's shoes, bikinis, underwear, bras, you name it. And we distributed to the church. Nobody knows what I have in my suitcases, and nobody in the church knows except the pastor and the elder and I. And we spend the night before, usually on the Sunday afternoon, we'll separate all the clothes into different groupings, and everybody will get there. But, to them, these are brand new clothes. And you know that we are a throwaway society. You wear clothes for one season, and you get rid of that sweater, those pants. They're brand new pants still. And the amazing stories we've had for that is just amazing. The money has built roofs, has put fans in windows where there's no air conditioning at 35 Celsius and a humidity of 90%. We have managed, right now, we had just last week when I was in Cuba, I went to the church, and for the first time, there were pews in this particular church. Now, those are all hard things, objects. But the fact is, the faith that has been brought forth and strengthened by these people is amazing. Because they can't even fantasize where they could possibly come up with $1,000. And they are praying in this example, they're praying with the leadership of the pastor for the last 6 months, guidance, what they can do to better their church, to increase the capacity of the church, because people are coming in. These people are baptizing on the average of 30 new souls a year. And these churches are small, but they're growing every time I go there. So they needed somehow to house these people. So what happened? They're praying. They're fasting. The pastor doesn't know that I'm coming. 1 week before I show up, I write him, listen, I'm coming on Monday. Can you please come and get me at the airport? He has no idea what I have in my wallet. But I don't have no idea what they're praying for. I sit down with the pastor and I say, Pastor, I have certain monies. And I've been praying. And I feel the need to give $900 to your church. And I felt the need to put $500 over here and $400 over there. Amazingly, the $900 was the miracle bench fund they had been praying for 6 months. I had no idea. None whatsoever. But God used me to fulfill the prayers and strengthen the faith of those people. So many young Christians, brand new in the faith. Imagine when in a country where to own a car is like for us to own a spaceship. And for them to all at once have God say, look, boom, you've got 20 benches in your church. That's an amazing feat. It's taken them a year to build those benches. But the fact is, it was there. So every single time, it has been a joy to go to Cuba and continue to grow this ministry. But as I say, to each and every single one of us, we are all walking, talking, capable ministers of the faith that we represent, and we are missionaries. Every single one of us has been given special talents and abilities. And if we're only sensitive to the guiding of the Spirit, in my case, my mom, who was just strong-arming me into this, hey, God has His ways of inspiring us. And my way was my way, but your ways are unique. I encourage each and every single one of you to find a special way to reach out, touch someone's life in sometimes as meaningful way as even offering a bar of soap. Amen.